Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in, House Huddlers. Huddle up to episode 37 of the House Huddle Podcast. As always, I am Rob Schwartz. Joined with me, my good buddy and co-host, Justin Onayemi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We're in the middle of it's kind of like a pivot, but we're in the middle of almost done with our fantasy baseball draft.
That's right. Well, I'm done.
I am too.
Okay.
I am too. Although I have one pending move to make because I specifically took a guy on IL so I could stash him, and then I got to go.
So did I.
Pick
Did you
somebody
see my
up.
last pick?
No.
My last pick, 22nd round, I want to say.
Okay.
Liam Hendricks.
Oh, nice.
I mean, he's not going to play for a while, but
Yeah.
I'd like him as a stash, and it's a keeper league, so maybe I get him for 2 years.
Sad story there, but
True.
hopefully everything comes out okay. And I have Graveman, so I'm hoping that he's kind of takes his time coming back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figured taking him there, it's whoever you take there, you're probably cutting not too far into the season.
Yeah.
So stash him and see what we got.
Yeah.
Getting off topic, though.
Yeah. I took Trevor's story, by the way.
Nice.
So this is episode 37. You had mentioned as we were setting up one name. I have
All right,
another.
since you have two, I'll toss mine out here.
Yeah.
I assume this is the Jason McKee episode.
He was definitely within my two.
Okay.
The other guy that came to mind was Tony Parrish.
Oh, that's a good call. I think
Yeah.
he was a better overall player.
I think so too, but I also feel like McKee just gets discounted because he's a fullback.
Yeah. We love fullbacks on this show.
We do. Kari Blasingame, what's up? So we have a kind of a different episode tonight. I mean, I think we're kind of getting a little bit of, we've done so much free agency talk. We've done so much draft talk. It's kind of a projection a little bit because the rosters obviously aren't set for the 2023 season. But we're going to look at the NFC North, and we're going to start in this episode. We're just going to look at the offense. We're going to go position by position, and we're going to rank them, talk about them a little bit. And then at some point, the hope is that I can get in touch with some people who cover the other three teams in the division and do some type of cross where, we get their opinions. Like, I'd like to get an outside perspective too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's interesting to hear the national media kind of liking the moves the Bears are making. And you hear stuff like, oh, the most improved team. Now, is that also because they were the worst team and you could only go up? I mean, there's some of that too. But sometimes when you're so close to a situation, you either are overly critical or maybe overly friendly in how you analyze things. So I would definitely like to talk to some, Lions podcasters. They're probably high on life right now.
Yeah.
But Packers as well, Vikings, just to get their take.
Yeah. It'll be a good conversation to have. I don't know if we can get it into one episode with all three, or maybe we just break them up into three. We'll have to play with it based off of scheduling.
Well, we talked about maybe when the season starts, looking to do episodes leading into games where we talk to the opponent's viewpoint.
Yeah, we have a lot of ideas. It's just a matter of getting those ideas to actually happen. So we appreciate all the support. We are up over 300 subscribers now, getting close to 310. We're almost to that 330 subscriber limit that we put on it to do that obvious.
Not the limit.
I'm sorry, not the limit. the floor.
That's right.
To do the obvious shirts giveaway. As soon as we hit that giveaway will happen. Anyone who's subscribed to this channel will have a opportunity to win. So if you are listening right now, hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy the Bears, you enjoy what we're doing, obviously hit the subscribe button and listen to the show. But if you just want a chance for that shirt, and then we have other giveaways that we're planned throughout the year, one really big one before the season starts, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I pivoted to baseball for a reason.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone follows me on Twitter, they might have seen it already. I know you saw it already because it was on Twitter. We've talked about our wives. Our wives are not big sports fans. Your wife probably a little bit less of a sports fan than my wife.
I thought you were going to say more. I was like, oh,
no. She
likes she calls it sports ball.
Yes, sports ball. My wife doesn't usually say that unless it's regarding your wife or making fun of us for being such big sports fans. But we were having a conversation as I was riding the train home yesterday. I think it was yesterday. She's messaging me saying that she doesn't have the right type of panko. And I know I'm getting off track here, but I swear to God, this does have to do with the Chicago Bears. She said she doesn't have the right type of panko. She wanted to make, we were making shrimp tacos, and she wanted to air fry them, make them crispy. And we only had Italian panko. First of all, I know what panko is. Okay. I know what panko is like. I know what the breading is. In my mind, I'm like, I don't really see what the big deal is of having Italian, breading on it, even though it doesn't really go. I mean, I was like, I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't really understand the really big deal about it. So she gives me a metaphor. And she's like, it's like if you had Justin Fields, and I'm very proud of her for this. It's like if you have Justin Fields in your fantasy baseball lineup. I could not love her anymore right now. Like, I will definitely be keeping a hold of her. The fact that she came up with that on her own was not only funny, like got me to chuckle like out loud on the train, but just to give me that perspective, like it definitely opened my eyes to what she was saying. And by the way, we ended up with Japanese panko style. I'm not a cook.
Which, by the way, I feel like I would have stuck with the Italian there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. You must not get it either. I don't know.
I don't know. But pivoting off of that, I wish I had the names. I wish I had it in front of me. But famously, Russell Wilson was drafted. Do you remember what team drafted him? Baseball team?
Oh, the baseball team. I was going to say it was the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah, that's not a trivia question.
No.
But he was drafted by a major league team. Right? Somebody can comment. I don't know exactly when it was, but that's kind of what the post was about. It was like, these are all players that were drafted after Russell Wilson.
Okay.
In the 2010 draft, and one of the players was Chris Bryant. But, in baseball, sometimes the guys get drafted, then they don't take them up. Like, they end up going to college and then coming out and getting redrafted. So I'm guessing that must have happened with Bryant.
And then he got, there's no way.
So Jock Peterson was on that list, drafted after Russell Wilson. Chris Bryant. I'm trying to think. I mean, the whole point was to put guys that actually made it and are quality players.
Yeah.
And I think Fields played. Did he play in college or just high school baseball?
I think he played in his early days of college as well.
Okay.
Somebody can quote me on that. Fact check me on that. I'm not 100% certain. I know he did play baseball. But he was not drafted.
I don't think so.
But somebody who was Kyle Long.
That's right, by the White Sox.
Yeah. All right. Let's get
too much baseball here.
Too much baseball. I mean, 7 days away from opening day.
That's true. I'm excited, but
we got 2 baseball teams in this city. I'm sure a lot of you guys are Sox or Cubs fans. So, we're going to get right into it with another somewhat off topic though, because I have a Rob's rants for this episode.
Time to rant, baby.
Rob's rants. This episode is brought to you again by Sweet Marie's Bake Shop. That's my wife's bake shop. Please check it out on Instagram. Tons of cookie options out there. If you guys have any events, any parties, whatever you need, message her on there, and she will get in touch with you for a quote. Amazing cookies. They taste good. They look amazing. It's like artwork. Mm-hmm. That is our Rob's Rants advertisement for today. All right. I think we touched on this at one point in one episode, and if we didn't, we talked about it off screen. Offensive linemen. I think it's pretty obvious that I consider the NFL Combine the Underwear Olympics. I've mentioned that on numerous occasions. Some of the positional drills that they make players do makes no sense to me. No sense. And the one thing that I think that we did talk about on the show, and I don't know for certain, is offensive linemen running a 40-yard dash. Like, when is an offensive lineman ever going to run full speed 40 yards down the field. It's very rare, and it's only if something really bad happens.
Well, I was going to say to congratulate Justin Fields on a touchdown score.
Okay, exactly. All right,
and I don't care if he gets there full speed.
No, they can go half speed, right? Yeah. We've talked about stupid injuries that happen, torn ACLs. Like I'm blanking on the guy who used to play for the Raiders, came here, Lamar Houston.
Okay,
right? Did his little celebration dance, tears his ACL, he's done for the year, right? I think they were losing bad that game too.
It was
the stupidest thing. Was it the
England
Patriots
game that they were getting absolutely destroyed? Well, anyway.
All right. So here's my rant. My rant is, first of all, don't do stupid drills like that for positional players that don't need to do those things. I don't care how fast they can get to the 40-yard. Do the 10-yard sprint. Do the 20 maybe at most. Do not do 40 for these guys. We saw Andrew Vajores, I'm probably pronouncing his name incorrectly, the guy out of USC, tore his ACL while doing the 40 just this year. Just yesterday, Ohio State had their pro day. A guy that is very high on many Chicago Bear fans and analysts' lists, and I'm sure very high on Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham's draft board, is Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson looks like a prototypical left tackle to me, but he could even play right tackle if they decided to draft him and they decide to figure out who out of him and Braxton Jones are going to be left or right. I don't care. That's up to them, up to the coaches. What I have a problem with is whoever was running this pro day, I don't know who it was. I know Chicago was very involved with Northwestern's pro day. I don't know who was involved with Ohio State's. Had this man jumping straight up into the air, doing a 180 spin, getting 3 feet, maybe 4 feet off the ground, landing, and then shuffling backwards. What? Where are we going to see this on the football field? Where are they going to jump up in the air, spin 180 degrees, and then shuffle backwards? I don't understand the point of it. Watching the guy's knees buckle, I cringed. Obviously I knew it, he was fine. But, why are you even taking those chances?
If he jumped 4 feet in the air, I say draft him.
Okay, I exaggerated. Okay, but you can
48-inch vertical for Paris Johnson.
You can find the video. You can find the video. He got at least 2 feet off the ground.
Well, I wish I remembered the name. I want to say his last name was Wooten, but I don't think it was Corey Wooten. But
Bears the pool jump guy
who jumped out of the pool.
Oh God, I'm blanking on his name too. It's not Wooten.
It's not Wooten.
No.
Anyway, listeners, hit us up with the name. Don't look it up. We can get it later. But he jumped out of a pool. I mean, that's impressive. So draft him, and he was terrible.
Yeah.
You're just gonna type pool jumper?
I have to look it up because I know the name. Jerron Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Right. Okay, defensive, same position, right? Or is it defensive tackle?
Yeah.
Defensive lineman. Again, that's safer though. You're in water. I know you're jumping out, but I don't know. It's a little bit safer to me. And I understand they do box jumping, but there's other drills that they should be doing that I don't even understand the point of it. In my head, I'm okay, maybe the point was to see how quickly
recover,
land, and then go, right? That's the only thing I could think of. But you could come up with a better way to do that. We're literally about a month away from the draft, and you're going to take the chance of this guy's not career, but at least this season being shut down? No, don't do it. Don't do it. Please. Please.
All right.
I had to get that out there.
Good rant.
All right.
So we want to go position by position and rank the NFC North.
We do.
Where do you want to start, Rob?
So I had us going with tight ends first. I think it's kind of I think it's a little bit of a sexy position, but not a sexy position because offensive lineman is usually the non-sexy, but I don't want to go we've bored people enough already. I don't want to
I know. Hopefully someone out there still listening.
I don't want to scare people away too quickly. So let's look at the tight end position. I will say I'm going to throw one thing out there and I'm going to let you give your stuff and then I'll come back to me.
Okay.
Out of the 4 teams, and I did this for every position, the 2 best players at this position, in my opinion, in the NFC North is TJ Hawkinson and Cole Kmet.
So I would agree with that. When I ranked these, I mean, I look at the top guys, and then obviously there's depth. I think the Bears getting Tunyon is a very good pickup. That's a very good signing. He's up there in age, so it's not like he's athletically where he was years ago. But that knowledge, the ability to block, again, like you said, it's a sexy but not sexy position, because some of what you need your tight ends to do to be fully functional and beneficial to your team is that in the trenches type of thing that doesn't show up on stat sheets. So I think Tunyon's perfect for that. And I think the best days of Cole Kmet are still ahead of us, especially with the other weapons they now have on offense. So I would have ranked Detroit very high in this, but they got rid of Hawkinson and traded him within the division. You hardly ever see that. So I agree. I think Hawkinson's by far the best tight end I shouldn't say by far, but he's the best tight end in the division. So I gave Minnesota the edge in that area. I actually slotted the Bears in at number 2, and maybe it has to do with what you said. If Kmet is basically the second best tight end in the division, they have the second best unit. So I have Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit, and I have Green Bay last. Honestly, I looked at their tight ends. I didn't even know any of them. I didn't know any of them. Josiah.
I didn't either.
Jaguara?
I didn't either.
Okay, so they're last in my division, or in my rankings.
Yeah. So our rankings differ slightly. I agree that I also did the similar situation. I always looked at who is the best, and then I also tried to look at depth and like where does depth give you enough to leapfrog another team. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Like you said, Green Bay. There's nothing about Green Bay that I like at the tight end position. But let's be honest. Green Bay's never really had a good tight end. Robert Tonyan had one season. I think he had 11 touchdowns 2 years ago. MVP season for Aaron Rodgers. Before that, it was like Jermichael Finley. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't use the tight end in the red zone. Like, I've talked about it for years. 20 to 20, fine. In the red zone, very few. And that's why a lot of these guys don't get high touchdown scoring seasons. Okay. But these guys, I mean, if Robert Tonyan was on this list, they'd still probably be the last on out of the NFC North. Okay. For me, anyway. Detroit was my third worst team. Brock Wright had 4 touchdowns last season. I mean, a little bit of upside with him, but not a lot. Both those teams need to find a tight end, in my opinion. I had Minnesota second. And I only did this because, in my opinion, and I like TJ Hawkinson, I think Cole Kmet is a more well-rounded tight end. I think he does more of the stuff that you need. And I know it's not sexy, like you said, but like I think he's a better blocker. And I think his days are looking even brighter. And the reason that I say that, and by the way, Robert Tonyan is what put it ahead of me, because I still think Hawkinson's the number 1, Kmet's number 2, but like putting Tonyan in that group, I just think that Chicago has the better option, because should Hawkinson go down, like, I'm taking Tonyan over Josh Oliver.
That makes sense. On our last episode, Tonyan came up as a recent signing, and I think Bob Weiss, not going to mention George Pickett this episode, so I'm going to mention Bob Weiss, mentioned that you don't really think of the number 2 tight end as the backup tight end, because there's going to be many times where you got 2 tight ends out there in 2 tight end sets. That being said, obviously, if your number 1 guy goes down, that number 2 guy, you want him to be able to, do a little bit more in pass catching and things like that. So
yeah, and Tonyan's a good red zone threat. Now, I just want to point out one more thing. So week 9 is when Chicago first got Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is obviously going to be on the roster again this year. Chase Claypool did wonders for Cole Kmet. That game, Cole Kmet, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. Next week, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Having Chase Claypool out there allows Cole Kmet to work the zone, find those soft little spots in the coverage, make the catch, and he doesn't go down. It was a bad thing for him when he was a rookie because he was constantly fumbling. He's worked on that clearly. I think he's out for another good year this year.
Completely agree. This could be the year that he really puts it all together, and I'm excited to see that. So, slightly different rankings, but having the Bears in the top half of any rankings is probably a good sign. So, why don't we transition to another position here? And it's a very interesting one, specifically within the division. Let's look at running back. So, obviously, Bears fans know David Montgomery is no longer a Bear. And what do you know? He didn't go very far. He is now a Detroit Lion. So you look at the 1-2 punch. The Bears were smart in bringing in Dante Foreman to replace David Montgomery. So you got Herbert and Foreman. But Detroit has DeAndre Swift and Montgomery as their 1-2. Green Bay, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. That's a pretty good 1-2. And Minnesota has Cook, and they did re-sign Mattson.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all four teams feel pretty good probably at what they have at running back. You want me to rank them or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I have a feeling we're very different. I don't know. We'll see.
I could see that because all four have an argument I think you could make.
And it's also just a position.
Yeah, true.
At least the NFL feels that way.
So I have, and I know you went backwards. I'm going to go best to worst.
Okay.
I think Minnesota's got the best running back tandem. Dalvin Cook is very amazing, and over the years that he's done incredible things, when there are times when he has to come out, Mattson has always stepped in and filled that role very, very well. My number 2 in the division goes to Green Bay. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon complement one another very well, kind of like that lightning and thunder that you used to see more in like the 90s football where you get a quicker back and you match them up with a bigger back. They kind of have that.
Fire and ice.
Fire and ice, baby. My number 3, I'm not putting the Bears in the cellar. I'm not putting them there. I have the Bears at the number 3 and Detroit pulling up the rear. Now, I've said many times on this show how big of a David Montgomery fan I am. I truly am. But in terms of explosiveness and things like that, we talked about how that part of his game is not really there. And so I actually feel like if you look at Detroit, going from Jamal Williams as your number 2 to Montgomery, different styles, I'll admit that. I don't know that, I certainly don't think he's going to put up the production from a 17 touchdown perspective. That's never been his game. He'll get you those tough yards.
Can we target him in fantasy, though, just in case?
Well, we can talk about it. I guess we just did. For any UFFL people listening, that was no. We're not going that way. Wink, wink.
I'm joking.
So I got Bears number 3. I think I'm really excited to see what Khalil Herbert can do. We've talked about his run blocking, blitz pickup, all that. 1, I think there are good backs who don't do that well. And 2, it was such a glaring issue that I would imagine he gets better at it. So I have the Bears slotted at 3, Detroit at 4.
Yeah, I was right. So we are definitely I shouldn't say not close.
You still have the same 4 teams, right?
I still have the same 4 teams.
Right.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I got the division right. I did. I didn't drink that much yet. So I think you nailed it in the beginning, though, when you said, like, some of these groups are very close. It's really easy to argue one over the other. So you went Minnesota, Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, right? I actually went Green Bay first with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But, we're talking like a 1A, 1B situation here. It's not like, tier 1, tier 2 situation. To me, they're in the same tier. Dalvin Cook is easily my favorite running back out of this group. But he's also just always hurt. And, like, I know, like, on paper, Minnesota probably does look better. But I can't get that bad taste out of my mouth because the guy is constantly getting hurt. And I love the combination of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I think they work really well together.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because maybe it's why I put Minnesota slightly ahead and you're putting Green Bay slightly ahead. I feel like it's not just looking at who these players are and what they're capable of, but it's also how the team utilizes them.
Sure.
I feel like Green Bay has not utilized Aaron Jones correctly the last few years. And so maybe that's part of why I downgraded him. You cannot say that about the way they use Dalvin Cook in Minnesota, which might speak to why he's often getting injured.
Yeah.
Because they really pound the ball with him.
Well,
it takes a toll.
It'll be interesting to see what happens at the quarterback position that we'll get to later. It also could be interesting to see how we rank the offensive line, because when you think of running backs, offensive line kind of goes hand in hand.
True. So you have Green Bay 1. Does that mean you have Minnesota 2?
And Minnesota 2.
Okay.
And then I have Detroit and Chicago flipped. I like Khalil Herbert. I like the signing of Foreman. There's clearly upside there. He had a great back end of the year last year for Carolina. But if I'm looking at the Chicago Bears running back room and I'm Ryan Poles, there is no way that I'm not pulling the trigger on a rookie running back, whether it's an undrafted free agent. I mean, somebody has to come in here and push. And I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. There are so many undrafted free agents or 6th, 7th round guys. The guy from Kansas City, I'm blanking on his name. He's a 7th rounder.
Pacheco?
Yeah.
Pacheco? I don't know how to say it.
Something close to that, right?
Okay.
7th round pick, right? 6th round pick, something like that. Like,
they'll for sure bring in a guy.
Right.
I mean, because they brought in Ebner, and
I think Ebner might be out the door.
I think he might be too. So how far up the list do they go if they land Derrick Henry?
So
we're not going to go there, but
I do have to point out one thing though, and I tweeted this out this afternoon when that rumor came out. I actually tweeted out earlier because the Chicago Bears signed and I'm blanking on the guy's name.
A
linebacker from Tennessee.
Yep.
This is the 3rd Tennessee Titan now that Ryan Poles has added to the roster.
The Bears have just become the Panthers and the Titans.
In 2022, he added 3 Tennessee Titans to the roster in Darrington Evans off waivers, okay? Kari Blasingame, who's still on the roster.
Yes.
And I'm blanking on the 3rd guy off the top of my head right now.
I can't think of it.
Okay. So, again, he was just a defensive lineman. Conley or something like that. Okay? I don't even think he saw the field. Long story short, it seems like Ryan Poles likes former Titans and now former Panthers, which, by the way, Foreman was a Titan, I think 2 years ago.
Was he? Okay,
he was
I don't remember that.
Maybe it was 3. He was a teammate of Kari Blasingame in Tennessee.
Interesting. Well, it reminds me of how every ex-Bear goes to Atlanta. And did you hear Eddie Goldman came out of retirement and got signed by Atlanta? Ryan Pace, what are you doing over there? All right.
Let's fast forward to our break because I think this segment kind of went a little long. I think we can hit the last 3 after the ads pretty quickly.
Yeah, we're going to go offensive line, receiver, and got to go quarterback.
Quarterback's got to be last.
Yeah, we'll save the best for last. So, yeah, why don't we take a break here? And when we come back, we'll finish with 3 more positional groups.
If you like this content, hit the like button. If you don't like the content, but you want to win a shirt, hit the subscribe button.
Or you can hit both.
Yes, definitely hit both.
We are back. Episode 37, the Jason McKee / Tony Parrish episode. And in the beginning, we kind of caught up with one another, and Rob told a funny story about his wife's nice reference to the Bears. And specifically Justin Fields. That's how you know he's making an impact in this city. He's got your wife talking about him.
Mad props, Ashley. I give you mad props.
And we started to break down various position groups on the offense and ranking where the Bears rank amongst their NFC North foes. Before we go into our final 3 position groups, I want to mention one more time the contest that we are currently running. When we get to 330 subscribers, we will be doing a random raffle amongst those subscribers for the rights to purchase a T-shirt through Obvious T-shirts. Obvious Shirts. Really great company. And we will cover the full cost of a shirt of your choice. Hopefully it's a Bears shirt.
Yeah, I mean, again, 7 days away from opening day. If you are a Cubs or Sox fan, feel free to choose that too. Because here's the thing: last I checked, we were at 307. That's not that far off from 330. I think we can get there in that 7 day span.
Let's do it.
If you know someone who's a Bears fan, tell them to subscribe. Like, it's that simple. Like, it's that simple.
All right. So we'll get there, and we'll do a raffle drawing at that point. All right, Rob. We have 3 position groups left. I'm going to throw all 3 out. Actually, one has to be last. We agree.
Yes.
Quarterback has to be last. So do you want to go offensive line here, or you want to talk wide receivers?
Fat guys in a little coat.
Very good. Very good. All right, so we're going to go offensive line. I'm going to let you start.
Okay.
And this one was a bit of a challenge for me.
Okay. So, again, I had the best of the 4. And Penei Sewell, in my opinion, is the best of these 4. I know he's not a left tackle. He's a right tackle. But he's by far the best. A top 10 pick, I believe. Definitely living up to that top 10 standard. Bakhtiari would be my number 1 if the guy could remain healthy. He even last year, only 11 games he played. Availability is the best ability. I always say that, especially with fantasy, and it's not always true, but 11 games is not enough. You need to be out there. And he's getting up there in age. He's got a contract situation, I think, coming up soon. It's a tough situation for them to be in.
So before you go too far into your rankings, that did cross my mind. I wouldn't say it impacted how I ranked any of these teams. I kind of looked at their rosters as they are situated now and went with it.
We did not discuss how to go about ranking.
No.
We chose our rankings based on our own interpretation.
Okay.
It was very loose, right?
So I kind of went with their current active rosters. In the case of the Bears, knowing that they're probably going to add somebody to this line, I did not consider that, even though we hope they add a very valuable piece. But when you look at Green Bay, they're kind of in cap hell. Bakhtiari might be a cut they're talking about. Have you heard that? Or that would be a tough
I haven't
one for
heard
them.
that. I have a feeling that he would probably restructure.
Restructure. That's true. Okay. So anyway, things like that could still happen. But as it stands now, how do you have them ranked, Rob?
Yeah. So, and I did a little projecting with this one because there's 5 positions, and it's not like we're going to break them down individually. But Detroit has the best lineman. They also have a pretty decent left tackle in Taylor Decker, and I really like Frank Ragnow as their center. And then I can never pronounce his name correctly, but Halapavladi Vaitai, the guy from Seattle that they got maybe 2 years ago, a decent guard. Graham Glasgow is a pretty good depth piece. Detroit is my number 1 offensive line, and it bothers me saying that, but they're making some pretty solid moves, and I think it starts up front in the trenches, and they're definitely number 1 for me. And I'll just mention the next ones quickly. So Minnesota and Green Bay. I have Minnesota 2, Green Bay 3. Again, I think it's kind of really tight, kind of like the running back situation, and I think Minnesota being my number 2 is kind of interesting because I had Green Bay as my number 2 running back group. So it's kind of conflicting a little bit there. Mm-hmm. But when I look at Minnesota, I loved Christian Darrisaw coming out of college. Loved him. He was a target that I wanted for Chicago. Ezra Cleveland was another guy that I really liked coming out of college. If I remember correctly, he hit an amazing 3-cone drill. 3-cone drill to me is one of the best things for you to use when you're trying to grade a tackle. If you're going to look at measurable drills, I wanted Garrett Bradbury as the center for the Chicago Bears. So the fact that they were able to retain him was big. And Brian O'Neill's a pretty good right tackle as well. So I love Minnesota. I know we wanted Elton Jenkins here in Chicago too. He re-signed. Yosh Nijman is a pretty decent depth piece for Green Bay. Zach Tom was another guy that I liked late in the draft, coming out of college as well for Green Bay. But Minnesota is just that they're slightly better than Green Bay. And then we got the Bears. And I'm trying not to project too much because I have no idea what Ryan Poles is going to do in this draft. I shouldn't say that. I have inklings on what he's going to do. Everyone keeps talking. He's going to take Paris Johnson. He's going to take Broderick Jones. I'm going to be honest. I think they're going defense in the first round.
So I wish I could make a bet on whether or not the first 2 picks the Bears make in the draft are number 9 and number 54. I would bet against that. I would bet against that.
Yeah,
and once you throw that into the equation, There's endless possibilities of how you
Yes.
can fill in the tackle position on offense
Yep.
and an edge rusher or something on defense. So will they go for a guy like Paris Johnson or Skoronski? We don't know. But if you don't get a guy like that and you get a Cody Mausch, I would feel pretty good about slotting him in, assuming Braxton Jones is going to develop a bit. Tevin Jenkins is going to remain healthy, we hope. We like the signing of Nate Davis. Maybe that means we have our guards and you move Whitehair to center. All of a sudden, it does start to look a little better than, well, a lot better than last year and a little better than even what we think at this very moment. So I'm not totally down on the Bears offensive line. I hope it becomes a strong unit. But as you went through very nicely for all the other teams, they are established across the board. So I also have Detroit as the number one unit. And I'm sorry to say this, but Detroit's been at the top of quite a few of our lists here, and they got the number 6 and number 18 pick in this year's draft. So
Jalen Carter.
I like what they're doing. I have Green Bay slightly ahead of Minnesota, and it's funny because we both had the running back switch. So I have Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. I think I think Detroit stands out, and then Green Bay and Minnesota are pretty close. Right now, I have the Bears pretty far off of that, but with some key moves and some development, maybe it becomes a pretty stable unit. I mean, let's not forget, from a running the ball standpoint, they were one of the best lines in the league last year, and I think they've upgraded already and will continue to upgrade from that. So
this isn't something that we talked about pre-show. I think we have enough time to do it. It was a comment that Dr. Truth brought up. And I appreciate, again, all the comments. I try to respond to all of them, at least give you guys a heart, something to respond back to you. So, you're not just speaking into,
the abyss.
Yeah. I mean, something, even if it's just a bear down. Okay. Trying to give you guys at least something in response. So, that we're really appreciative of the fact that you guys are subscribing, you are liking, you are commenting, you are watching. Like, it means a lot because we're just two guys. I mean, I know I write for Bear Goggles and I put a lot of time of my life into the Bears. Justin does too. I mean, every Sunday a lot of times we're watching the games together. But he asked us and I responded on there, but I want to get a response here from both of us. Right now, not knowing specifically, because I'm not going to put you on the spot there, who they're going to draft. How do you think the Bears' offensive line shakes out from a starting standpoint? And if you need me to go first while you think, I can.
No, I can go. Okay. I can go. I've come around to really think that Braxton Jones is your left tackle. Now, that being said, if you take Paris Johnson, I think he has a very good chance of anchoring down the left tackle position. Now, what I'm not sure of is, can Braxton Jones make the shift over to right tackle? So I'm leaning Braxton Jones is your left tackle. Some sort of rookie is your right tackle. And left guard and right guard are also kind of challenging for me. I have Nate Davis, the more experienced player, being the one to make the switch over to left guard. I'm keeping Tevin Jenkins where he was at right guard. He had a great season other than the injuries that he sustained, which is worrisome. Yeah. But assuming he can get back to decently full health, I keep him at right guard where he had a lot of success. Now, that still does leave center. And I'm going to say I'm unsure. I'm fine moving Whitehair in there. Remember, he was a guy we would have cut a long time ago if we had it our way. But he's on the team, and he's played center well in the past. However, I would also be fine with a second-round rookie. There are some good ones in this draft. Now, that means I might have 2 rookies starting on your 5. You got to bring them in early, and they said they want to play the best 5. So if you get talented rookies and you get them up to speed, I say let them play, let them develop. So that's my starting 5. I know it has 2 question marks in there. What do you got?
So I think the question marks are fair because at this point, I mean, we're still a month away from the draft. We still have a second or a third wave of free agency. What we do know, though, is that, and you have 2 rookies starting on your offensive line.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Because I could see Whitehair at center.
At least one.
At least one.
Possibly 2. I'm going to go on the limb. Okay, I'm going to put this out there. A little bit of a hot take.
Okay.
This is exactly how I think this whole offseason is going to go from an offensive line standpoint. Braxton Jones is going to be your starting left tackle. You mentioned Paris Johnson. I actually could see Paris Johnson starting at right tackle to begin with, or at least them planning it to be that way, and then depending on how things shake out, he had no idea that Braxton Jones was going to be the starting left tackle last year as a 5th-round pick. No idea. And he graded out better than Orlando Brown if you follow Pro Football Focus. Okay, I don't believe in their grades, but he did very, very well.
Yeah, he did very well. No doubt about it.
I think Tevin Jenkins. Let me get back to Tevin Jenkins. Nate Davis isn't a great signing. And I think Nate Davis could start at either position, even though he only has experience in the NFL at right guard. I think switching the tackle spots is a lot more difficult than switching the interior offensive line
Agreed.
spots. Okay, so I think he could handle it. That doesn't bother me. So whether you have Nate Davis at left guard, you have Tevin Jenkins at right guard, or vice versa, I don't care. Right tackle is going to be someone in the draft. I don't think it's going to be a first rounder. Personally, I think they go defensive line. I have a mock draft that I just finished today for Bear Goggles On. I mentioned corner being an option. I actually went with Miles Murphy at defensive end. I think he's getting way too much heat, way too much hate. And I agree with you. I think center is going to be this is a deep center class. There's 3 or 4 guys that I would take within the first 3 rounds. And I think any of those guys could start opening day. That's baseball. Day 1, week 1. And I'm just going to point out, 2 years ago, Creed Humphrey started at center for the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a 6th-round pick in Trey Smith starting at right guard. 2 rookies starting on that line. I don't think Ryan Poles cares.
I agree. I mean, and that when you say best 5, that's what you're saying.
And that's what he keeps telling us.
And that's what he keeps saying. Now, here's my question. You said, let's say Braxton Jones is your left tackle. Let's say you do draft Paris Johnson. You said start him at right and see how things go. When would you be comfortable with him switching? Let's say he starts at right tackle and then now replaces Braxton Jones at left tackle. You're talking training camp, preseason.
Yes,
okay.
Same timeline as we saw with the
that makes sense.
Larry
I were hoping you
Borum.
weren't saying in week 5 they randomly make the switch.
No. Not like the Cody Whitehair, James Daniels switch that we saw back in 2019.
Which was iffy. So.
No.
All right. Well, the Bears are last on offensive line, but I think there's hope. I mean, that's kind of how offensive lines are. You get the right talent, and they mesh together. And
it all depends on chemistry. It's very difficult to project where that position group is going to go. A wide receiver has to be the sexiest position for this team right now, right? Just because of the trade, right?
Yeah. I'm curious how you have them ranked. So do you want to go first on this one?
I'll go first.
All right.
Okay. And I actually did not look at I have access to Justin's rankings quickly right before the show, and I did not look at.
And I don't have access to yours.
And he does not have access to mine. And I did not look at any of the bottom 3. I only looked at the 2 as we were looking at earlier. No, I take that back. I looked at offensive line in our break. Very quickly, I do not have Chicago number 1, and it really pains me to say this, but I have Detroit number 1 again.
And when the Bears got DJ Moore in the trade, I mean, granted, there's that like instant euphoria that you feel.
Yes.
Some people started saying they have like the best or top 3 receiving core in the NFC, and I didn't think what that meant. Like, I mean, I don't know if you put the Rams immediately ahead, although I don't know what Cooper Kupp status. Anyway, I didn't know what that meant. But when I actually sat here and went deep into our division, I also don't have the Bears as even the number 1 in their own division.
Yeah.
So who do you got?
I have Detroit.
Okay, I have Detroit as well.
So, but let me tell you, I do think they're very close because when I look at the top players in this group, I have Justin Jefferson number 1 by far. No one is even close to him. Not even close. The problem is their depth isn't the greatest.
Well, and you lose Thielen.
Right. And then tied for second for me is DJ Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Him and ASB are very equal, different types of receivers, very equal when it comes to production and what they can do on the field. Again, those two are very, very close for me. So Detroit is number one for me because I'm a huge Jameson Williams fan. If anyone follows me prior to the show starting, he was my number one receiver out of that group.
Because of the name Jameson?
I might have been. I had a lot of that last show.
There you go.
No, he was my number one receiving prospect coming out of that draft.
Well, for those who maybe don't know, he missed the beginning of the season, recovering from an injury. But when he did come on, he came on quick and he came on strong.
Yeah.
And now he'll have what you assume is a full season to show what he can do. And I agree with you. That 1-2 punch in Detroit is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Now, I do have Chicago second, which is very surprising to me because I love Justin Jefferson and he's amazing. But the combination of Moore, Mooney, and Claypool is better to me than the combination of just Jefferson and KJ Osborne.
Right.
So
agreed.
I have them two, Minnesota's 3, and Green Bay's last.
So this is the first time we agreed, I think. I have the same exact rankings.
Wow.
Now, I think Bears could go all the way to number 1 if we just trade St. Brown's. We'll give you
PSB.
Oh
my gosh. Are you kidding me? I'll throw in Bayless Jones too.
There you go. Take a Jones off our hands. We got plenty of Jones.
So many Jones.
So if we could just switch St. Brown's with them.
Can you imagine if they draft Broderick Jones? You have Braxton Jones and Broderick Jones.
About it, man. There are a lot of Jones in the draft. There's even a Jalen Jones.
Yes.
And same first name even as one of our players. So many combinations if you want to stick with the Joneses. If you want to keep up with the Joneses. So same rankings there.
That's the first one.
If you take Moore, if you don't make that trade and get DJ Moore, I don't know where I put the Bears. I would then put Minnesota ahead of the Bears, I think. And maybe they come in still ahead of Green Bay, but coming into last season, the Bears and Green Bay were looked at as maybe having the 2 worst receiving cores in the league. So it's exciting to see they've shot up the ranks a bit.
I mean, look at what Ryan Poles has done. And I know everyone's mad about the Claypool trade. Not everyone. A lot of people are mad about the Claypool trade.
I do have to say something, though. And I think I mentioned it. It's getting hard to remember what we've said on the podcast and what we haven't said, what we might have said privately. But you look at the opening day starting receivers that Justin Fields was throwing to in week 1 last year. Now, granted, injuries were part of what made it bad. But I want to point out that we don't know. We hope that your starting 3 receivers day 1 is DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool.
Yes.
Last year, it was Darnell Mooney, Dante Pettis,
Equanimous
and Equanimous St. Brown. Now, it should have been Byron Pringle in there and N'Keal Harry, which, by the way, they were both hurt. But when they were healthy, they weren't that good.
No.
So it's been a huge upgrade position.
I'm going to throw this out. I threw this out on Twitter. People can, if you like this comment, if you like what I'm about to say is a hot take, hit the like button. If you hate what I'm going to say, subscribe and hit the like button. And if you liked it, go back and hit subscribe again.
That will unsubscribe. So don't do that.
I would give Kenny Galladay a veteran minimum contract just to see what he has in the tank. He's from Chicago, Illinois. He's from Northern Illinois University. Right? Like, that to me is no different than you trading a 2025 7th-round pick for N'Keal Harry. And at least he's had production in the past. I know he hasn't been the same since the injury, but why not? Let's see what he's got in the offseason. Bring him back home.
Yeah.
It's not going to make my wide receiver rankings change.
I'll bring in a rookie, but
I mean, I would do that too.
Okay, true.
All right.
This
is the big one.
Here we go.
Quarterback.
This was not easy for me.
I'm going to let you go first then.
This was not easy. And I would love to revisit this maybe in week 8 of the regular season because we can see how this thing's all shake out. But this one I might do in reverse order.
No, I think you have to.
This one's in reverse order?
Yeah, you have to.
All right.
Do we need to go last, third, go back and forth?
Yep.
Okay.
My worst NFC North quarterback situation.
And
is...
Wait, before you say this, we did not talk about how we were ranking these.
No,
I
we
know
did
all the
not.
other positions we looked at depth. Did you look at depth?
I looked at depth, but
Okay.
I didn't fully... yeah, I did look at depth. Okay. My number one worst NFC North quarterback position group. Haven't said this in 35 years.
I know where you're going now.
The Green Bay Packers. And by the way, even if Rodgers is on the team, I'm pretty confident in that.
Wow.
Now, here's what I mean by that.
Okay.
He's been a huge distraction.
I might have to clip this.
He's been a huge distraction. Like, now he for sure has declared he would like to go for the Jets. Can you imagine if that falls through? I don't know the validity of it, but I heard some random, rumor that Jets might now pursue another trade option, go for Stafford. So just say that falls through. How are you going to walk back into that locker room and lead your team? Not to mention his skills and production have declined. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's what you see on Sundays. So I have them as the worst group in the division, but I do think he'll be off. So I did a little projecting in that one. I think you're going to see the Jordan Love era begin, and I just don't think it's going to be the very best. He might be a perfectly fine prospect, but to just come in and act like you can go from Aaron Rodgers to him, especially when we ranked their receiving core as the worst of the division, I have them having the worst quarterback situation. Who do you got?
So I have to say that I have an asterisk by my quarterback position. If Aaron Rodgers is not on this team, they are by far the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the quarterback position. I don't care what anyone thinks about Jordan Love. I don't care how crazy it would look if Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets and we just expect Jordan Love to be the next Aaron Rodgers because Brett Favre went to the Jets and Aaron Rodgers became Aaron Rodgers. I don't care about that storyline. Green Bay is going to be the bottom of the barrel. If Aaron Rodgers stays, and I agree with you with everything that you said about the off-field issues, and it's been a distraction now going on year 3.
Mm-hmm.
From a talent standpoint, I can't put him at the bottom. So if Rodgers is here, and this is showing how good I think this NFC North quarterback grouping is now, Kirk Cousins is my worst quarterback. And I don't think Kirk Cousins is a bad quarterback. I think Kirk Cousins is a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. And he has the potential every year to be in the top 8. Granted, I think if he didn't have Justin Jefferson, he wouldn't look as good. And it'll be interesting to see now without Thielen what happens there. But he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the it factor. He just doesn't for me. And I like that.
We're going to end up fist fighting on the end of this episode. So that'll be in the post-game show. We'll do a separate brawl.
Okay.
So I have Green Bay last. Do you declare who you have as last then?
I mean, it's them if Rodgers leaves.
And we think, what do you put the rank percentage at that he's gone?
50-50.
No. That low?
I mean,
he's gone, dude. I mean,
I only think he's gone if the Jets trade for him. I don't think anyone else wants him.
But don't you think the Jets have to trade for him now?
I mean,
I'd say there's an 80% chance he's gone.
All right, I'll go 60.
I almost went 90.
I'll go 60-40.
All right. So my number 2 worst quarterback situation in the NFC North, I have Detroit number 3. Now they only have, if I did my research correctly, their only quarterback right now is Jared Goff. I don't even think they have a backup. I don't think they even have a backup on their roster. And so I did think depth mattered.
Yes.
To some degree. Now, Goff played very well last year. Say what you want about his past, how he ended up in Detroit, all of those things. He played very, very well. And I would expect him to play well again. But we've also seen him not meet that full potential that he had coming out of college. And then with the fact that they had no backup at all, I kind of put them down, but I also think that speaks to, as you said, some of the other quarterback situations in this division, including the Bears, kind of looking good. So I have Green Bay as the worst, and I have Detroit number 3.
So I just have them flipped. If Rodgers is here, Green Bay is 4 or 3. Minnesota is 4. If Rodgers is not here, Minnesota is 3. Green Bay is 4. That's just a flip. And I think part of it, though, is if, obviously I'll just throw it out there. You mentioned Detroit, so I'm just going to put it out there. We said they have the number 1 receiving group, right? So I think that plays a big part in what Jared Goff is able to do.
That's true. And the best O-line.
And they have the best offensive line, so he has way more time to dissect and throw. He still makes mistakes. In fact, from a talent standpoint, I think Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins are almost the same guy. They just are. Because when he had talent in LA with Sean McVay, he had good seasons. I mean, he took them to a Super Bowl.
Okay. My number 2, Chicago Bears. Which actually funny means my number 1 is Minnesota, who you have as the worst. So I guess I got to kind of defend both. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan. But at the same time, he's kind of a guy where the floor is pretty high. His ceiling is probably also high, but he doesn't really seem to get to that ceiling. But when you have Justin Jefferson and you have a quarterback who's, let's be honest, above average and has been for a while, that experience and that track record is what had me put him there, as well as the fact that they have Nick Mullins as a backup, and I think he's serviceable as a backup. So when you look at Detroit, who doesn't even have a backup, now obviously they're not going to go into the season with no backup, right. And maybe they use the number 6 pick to bring in a future stud.
I didn't realize they didn't have a backup, and that kind of makes me think they will use a first-round pick on a quarterback.
They might, and if it's Anthony Richardson, who is a project, you let him learn.
Yeah.
You've built the entire team. I mean, they have a very solid team from top to bottom. That could be pretty scary.
But they're still Detroit, so they'll find ways to lose.
And then, obviously, don't have to tell the Chicago Bears fans too much here, but we're really excited about the potential for Justin Fields, especially as you give him more weapons. Now, we want the line to be better, and we think it's slightly better. We want it to be a lot better. And I really like the addition of Walker as a backup. So I'm excited about the Bears. And the reason I said I'd like to do this again in Week 8, if Justin Fields starts to do what you and I think he's capable of, that's that year 3 Josh Allen. That's that Jalen Hurts once he gets A.J. Brown. Then I could see Bears having the number 1 situation in the division. You see it already?
Here is my meatball take, guys. Here it is. I'm putting it out there, and I don't care. I don't care if it bites me in the ass. Okay? I have yet to change this background, and my wife is going to kill me because I always have a picture of my kids. If you can see this. Okay? Justin Fields. Justin Fields is my number 1 quarterback in this group going into 2023. He's the most dynamic quarterback. I don't care what you think if he can't throw, because he can. He now has an amazing wide receiver group, and he has no excuses for 2023 that he can't find these guys and get them open. His work ethic tells me everything I need to know about this guy. Everything I need to know about this guy. The offensive line, I expect to improve, even if just a slight bit. This is the fire.
I got one more thing to add to your... Go.
Justin Fields, Chicago, number 1 quarterback situation in the NFC North. It's finally happened.
All right.
It has happened.
I wanted to be patient and let you say all those things, but I think you missed one key factor.
And
he's running the same system for a second year in a row.
Yes.
That's big.
Huge.
That's really big. I mean, we talked about Braxton Jones as a rookie and how that might have impacted him, and having a full offseason to work on his game, work on his body. I feel the same way with Fields from the standpoint of he knows what they're running now. He knows now he's digging into the intricacies of the offense as opposed to just learning it at a base level. I mean, I don't want to go all the way back to old regimes, but with Nagy, they talked about like it's going to take 3 years in the system to. I don't know that was the best example.
I think the problem is Matt Nagy started to forget more than he new in the first year. Like,
Yeah.
he just tried to do too much.
A really good quarterback coach, though.
Oh, really good quarterback. I mean,
Top of the
Patrick
league.
Mahomes. That
Top
guy
of the
came out of
league.
nowhere.
Yeah. I didn't even know who he was. And then, boom. You bring him Nagy, Super Bowl.
I know it's a hot take. I know it is, but I'm projecting. I'm projecting year 3. I'm projecting we got him the wide receiver that we've been talking about. I'm projecting the Jalen Hurts jump. I'm projecting the Tua Tagovailoa. Oh my God, I can't speak. The Tua jump. Okay, I'm projecting the Josh Allen jump. I'm projecting the who am I forgetting? You said them all earlier.
You hit them all.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts. We got your Josh Allen, Tua.
No one thought Jalen Hurts was going to have this season. He had an MVP type season this year. No one thought Tua was going to have this year. If he didn't have concussions, they might have pushed even further in the playoffs. Justin Fields, number 1 quarterback in the NFC North, pairing it with Justin, Green Bay with the worst quarterback situation, 35 plus years.
And when you
and let's not count Bart Starr, right?
When you go back that far, the Bears weren't number 1.
No, I mean Jim McMahon was good.
Oh God,
but
no, he was fine. But here's the thing, I was more, and I tried to stay consistent through all the groups, looking at the right now with a slight look towards the future. That's why I said let's revisit this closer to the season. I might be on board with what you're saying. I'm a huge Justin Fields supporter, and I like the backup they brought in.
So it'll be interesting. So like I said, we're going to try to get some other outside perspectives on this show. I'm going to start coordinating it this week. Next week, our plan is to do the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Justin and I are going to come up with a consensus of what we just did and have a Hallis Huddle consensus grouping. I think he can convince me in some areas, and I'm hoping to convince him in some areas.
Quarterback's going to be tough.
Offensive line, we're set.
Yeah, we're good there.
We're set. And we'll see what the other analysts from other the other teams think. And again, I'm excited to keep saying. And if you like that Justin Fields is the number 1 quarterback situation, he's dynamic. He took this team on his back, carried them to a almost 30 points per game, 4-week span. I know they didn't win games. I don't care about that.
Well,
he is amazing.
And I mentioned last week replacement level players as just like a terminology. The Bears were trotting out guys that were below replacement level last year.
Yes.
And to see what he was able to do with questionable O-line, with questionable receivers.
I'm
the
drinking the Kool-Aid, guys.
Yes,
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
So I'm loving it. Oh, sorry. We can't use that. We can't use that line.
That's copyrighted.
Edit. Sorry about that. But
maybe we can get him as an advertiser. Who knows?
Maybe. All right. Nice job, Rob.
Hit the like button, subscribe, comment. I think we're done.
Yeah.
Bear down.
Bear down, baby.